So for today's program, we have our mayor, Stephen Eisenbeis, and he has been really involved in the community for a long time. He was a volunteer at Sitka Fire Department as a firefighter, was a certified EMT, and briefly served with search and rescue. He's been a member of the Gary Paxton Industrial Park Board, the Chamber Board member, Police and Fire Commissioner, Downtown Revitalization Group. He's additionally served Sitka as an assembly member and had liaison opportunities with the Gary Paxton Industrial Park Board, Tree and Landscape, Sitka Economic Development Association, and Sitka Community. He was the chair of the Assembly's Hiring Review Committee while it existed. So I know you were on the Assembly before you were now our mayor, and you owned that business downtown. And I think Debbie Daniels, whose birthday is July 1st, if you all want to shoot her a happy birthday, is kind of related to him. And anyway, I want to welcome you to come speak to our club.
Great, thank you. I don't know if I have to hold a microphone. I don't know if...
It will help the people on the call.
Yeah, no, I thought maybe there was one here, so...
Yes.
You want to go?
Oh, you can do this? Oh,
Yeah,
no,
does that
that
work?
does not connect to that, I don't think.
A gizmo would be great. As much as I speak, I don't know what it is about holding a microphone that just doesn't work quite as well for me, probably because I'm a little animated, but yes, as was mentioned, of mine, who is on her way down to pick up, what did you refer to her as? Granny? Baby duck? Okay, yes, baby duck, who is my grandmother. So I'm extremely excited to have her up here for this.
Yeah, you're a baby duck now, right?
He's like an
You know, unfortunately, as much as she tried, I'm not a duck. My involvement goes with purchasing a flock of ducks, and I think that one's pretty good. So, yes, as was stated earlier, there was it says that I've been volunteering in Sitka for a long time. I don't know about a long time. I'm fairly young still. Some of the people in this room have been volunteering quite extensively throughout their lives, but I do thank you for that recognition. I wanted to thank everybody for the opportunity to speak today. Been given the opportunity earlier in the year and had asked to, hold on one second. I think that'll work great. If people online can't hear me, let me know. I can kind of see myself down below. Let's see, let's turn. There. The people online have the best angle of me too. It's right up my nose. So. Yeah, no, just wanted to thank everybody to give me the opportunity to come in and speak in front of you today. As I look around the room, this is quite the group. Everybody, I think, has been involved in Sitka for a long time and doing great work in Sitka, and with their commitment to Rotary, definitely is going to further that commitment to Sitka. So, not only thank you for letting me speak, but thank you for everything that you guys do, not only as a group, but as individuals as well. It's definitely big footsteps to follow in. So I really do feel honored when I get to have the privilege of speaking in front of people who I've seen since I was growing up and looked up to since I was growing up. Moved here in second grade and have been here basically ever since. Let's see. So I have a couple talking points today. Just want to go over a few things, and then I really like a back and forth. It seems like I do a little bit better that way. Hopefully to try and answer some questions that people might have, maybe clear up some misunderstandings, or just clear up something that they've been wondering about at the assembly level. Kind of like our administrator has started doing coffee with the administrator, and he told us that was an extremely valuable tool for him because he was able to clear up some misconceptions or further some understandings of people who came to that. So that was really, really cool, and I hope he has the time to continue that. So as I started to say earlier, I wanted to kind of bump this presentation back a little bit until after the budget cycle, because then I was going to have a lot better idea of how Sitka was going to be sitting for this next year. And fortunately, I can sit here and say that we passed a really good budget, I feel. It's really kudos to our administrator and his team, because there was very little debate about it at the assembly table. I think that he justified all his expenditures very well, and I think that they were necessary to keep our town functioning as is. Yes, there is utility rate increases in that budget. I'm not necessarily proud of that, but when I flip the light switch, I like having the power to come on, and there is a cost associated with that. So the budget went really well, as is normal and has been normal over my past 7 years on the assembly, is that we're not funding infrastructure though. We continue to not fund infrastructure in lieu of other programs, making sure that our building department has people so that people can get building permits, and just daily city functions. So I don't know the short-term answer to that solution, because it's becoming, the gap between what we fund and what we need is becoming extremely large. But I do know that our administrator is keenly aware of it and will be continuing to work on that. I believe that the assembly is keenly aware too, and hopefully we have some solutions. I think a lot of the CARES Act round 2 that's coming in, I know they have a different name for it now, but there's about $3.4 million that'll be coming into the community over a couple year period. And I think a bunch of that, through one mechanism or another, is probably going to end up going into infrastructure. It sounds like the Assembly's will at this time too is to use the gift from Norwegian Cruise Lines of $1 million to help fund infrastructure as well. So trying to keep up as much as we can, but definitely a bit behind on that. Along the lines of infrastructure, so the haul out has been a huge topic of conversation amongst the city for the last couple of years. We once again submitted our grants. There's 2 grants I believe that we submitted for our haul out, and 1 for our seawall infrastructure. But I think we stand a really good chance this time on our haul out grant opportunity. We were a finalist last time, and after that we sat down with the review committee that looked over the grants, and we got tips and thoughts and suggestions from them. We also, when Senator Dan Sullivan was in town, he got very excited about our grant opportunities and wanted his team to tag along with a letter of recommendation as well. So, we're doing everything right. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get the grant, but this time I was optimistic last time, and this time I'm extremely optimistic. So, we'll see. That could be a potential $7 million or so into the town to start building some infrastructure so that we can put people to work hauling boats, fixing boats, and working on our fleet here, which I hope our fleet gets to go fishing on the 1st. If the state shuts down, I don't know that we can open the king salmon fishery. And that would not, yeah. It is over? Okay. Yeah, if you can't tell by how dark I am, I spent the last couple days in the sun not paying attention to anything. I hope everyone else had the opportunity to get out in our sun too. We closed the store for Monday, because you get what, two or three super sunny days in Sitka a year. So yeah, we took a mental health vacation day, and everybody went out into the sun. But yeah, I hope, optimistic on these haul out grants. We'll see where it goes. I'm really excited to have a functioning facility for our fleet now that Halibut Point Marine does not want to haul boats anymore. They've kind of shifted business models there. So something that I believe is important for everybody, and I want to keep on the top of everybody's mind, is the Sitka Community Hospital building sale. It sounds as if that is going to come up for a public advisory vote. So I'm leaning towards having a vote, most definitely. I'd like to see that happen. The only thing on it, though, that somewhat concerns me is that it is simply an advisory vote. It's not a binding action. So I think the assembly would probably be foolish to go against an advisory vote, but that is something that they could do. And I don't know how that would work out. I don't think that would be a good thing, but again, that's, me, I'm one of 7 on that. Yes, please, sir.
When you're talking about that, there's 3 people that are, or groups that are interested. Is that true?
I don't have that off of the top of my head. I believe that there was only one official proposal that came in. Yes, there was some groups who had expressed interest, but I'm fairly certain that only one proposal was actually received. That it was either A, received, or B, was within what we were looking for. So.
I assume that's search.
Yes, that was a proposal from Search. So. But that sounds like it's going to go to a public vote, which like I said, I'm pretty excited about. I think that's the right way to deal with such a nice piece of property within our community. Because I've long had a fear when we started renting it to Search, what's going to happen in 5 years when they're done with the building? What's going to happen when they decide to move on? How are we going to fill that building? It's pretty specifically built for one purpose. So. Could be a good opportunity there, depending on which side of it that you sit on. So, and then next summer, kind of looking ahead a little bit and talking about this summer as well. Fortunately, from talking with other business owners and just looking downtown and looking at some of the numbers, we're having a lot of activity in town right now, which means a pretty strong sales tax revenue. That's encouraging. That really is encouraging. I think we're going to perhaps surpass our estimated numbers in our budget, so that perhaps we can start to maybe fund infrastructure or. But yeah, I've seen some almost record-breaking numbers down at Russell's this year. And I've talked to multiple other business owners that say the same thing, that they're busy. They're super busy. Hotels are booked up, charter lodges are booked up, independent travelers are coming in great numbers. And that's even before we get some of these anticipated cruise ships, which we are working through a process to make sure that those cruise ships can safely come to town. I know that is a big concern on everybody's mind, is how can we deal with cruise ships this year? And so there is a multi-city agreement that we're working on with Juneau, Ketchikan, Skagway, all the ports that these cruise ships would go to, so that we can have cruising, about as safe as possible. I honestly believe, as much concern as I do have about coronavirus, that norovirus outbreaks, I think we're going to be a little bit worse, and we seem to have those pretty frequently on cruise ships. So. Let's see, and then visitors next year. Wow, it's going to be a lot. We have a task force. Well, we tasked the Planning Commission with looking into how we can deal with upwards of 400,000 visitors next year. And to be honest, frankly, I don't know how we're going to. Looking at the cruise ship calendar, I believe it's 17 days where our town's population doubles. A lot of visitors. That's a lot of visitors. It looks like about 2,000 people minimum every single day, starting. Actually, I think the first boat is in April this year, not even in May, and then all the way through till October. So it's going to be jam-packed. It'll be interesting to see if that's within the carrying capacity of Sitka. I personally have some doubts. I don't know that many people is within the carrying capacity here, because I think the most, when we looked at it, the most we've had previously is about 250,000 in 1 year. And if anybody remembers those days, it was 4 ships parked out in the bay. There was a traffic cop down at what was the 4-way stop then, and you couldn't do anything. And so that that sounds like it would be more of the norm coming up next year. So they are working on mitigation plans to see how we can effectively but how we can effectively facilitate this many cruise passengers. Because I think it's going to be tough. You have something, sir?
Yes. Question: when you have those large days, or is the Planning Commission gonna look at like closing off Lincoln Streets, just so people can walk, maybe no cars?
Yeah, that is one of the things they're looking at. I believe it's widely supported by downtown businesses, mainly out of safety. I know when there's a bunch of cruise passengers in town, if I'm trying to get business done, I walk in the street when I can, and you walk around cars and around groups of people. So I think with safety in mind, people are definitely looking at that. But I know that there's going to be some pushback from people trying to transit through the area. So, yeah, question?
Well, I'm going to be one of those transit people. Our drive up at the gates, start on Lincoln Street or end on Lincoln Street.
Mm-hmm.
And the ATMs and handicap. So just be mindful.
Yeah, and that's the exact type of feedback that the Planning Commission does need.
If somebody suggested I take a golf cart with people around to the front, and I was like, no. that's
Yeah,
not
no, that does not facilitate people at all. Because we can't completely shut down our way of life to help facilitate some visitors. So
Yeah, after hours, I don't care. Because I just don't want the pushback from the customers, because the customers are going to be, they're not going to change or, whatever. And there are other people at the other end of the road that are, still trying to do a facilitate for the same tourists.
agreed. Yeah, I would feel rather uncomfortable if I had to get change for the business walking around with $10,000 in cash with 5,000 people downtown. It's probably not the best situation there. Well, I think the hard part then would just be having the $10,000 in cash. I know that's definitely not sitting in my bank account.
Or
So.
scare the person to go and do that when they have a little bit of money.
Yeah, no, and that's the exact type of community feedback that the Planning Commission is looking for, because while it might make sense to close maybe one side of the street, maybe it doesn't make sense on the other side of the street. Maybe we make it a one-way. I don't know. There's a lot of thoughts out there, and hopefully all the input will be considered strongly. I hadn't heard of that concern yet, so it's a good one. It's a good one.
I was going to say good because I brought it up one
John, you had something?
Surprised you hadn't heard of that.
Yes.
Oh, I was just wondering why would it be possible to have a cash machine here at the Centennial Building and keep people with cash in their money or cash in their pocket on their way to town?
Yes, I believe it would be possible. I'm kind of getting off of my mayoral side now.
Cancel that comment.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think that would be possible. We'll see. Question? Comment?
Yeah, just a comment. So if you were just, I was thinking that too, if you left that side of the, downtown open, one way is good things, people just turn on that way, but nobody should be able to park. Because that's, when you're driving down there,
That's
the
the
tourists are
problem.
just getting out between the cars. And we're driving and holding on to it.
Yes, agreed. And I know as part of, there's been a lot of conversation amongst the assembly is using the Norwegian $1 million gift to help get the Lincoln Street repaving project back on task. And so during that, I think it's an opportune time to revisit how traffic flows downtown. How do we park? Is it angled parking on one side of the street and we have one-way traffic only? It'll be a great opportunity for that because we won't repave it again for another 20 years, hopefully.
Right.
And then we're kind of set in that. So, yes.
Since we're on all of the topics about downtown, those massive green tour buses,
Mm-hmm.
because I live in Cathedral Arms, so I see those buses coming through. Those things are way too big to be driving downtown. Going around the cathedral and down the street. I mean, are we stuck with these massive buses coming downtown down Lincoln Street around the cathedral, or is there another way to route them?
Yeah, are we stuck with the buses? Unfortunately, I think so, especially with an increase in visitors, that would be, the larger buses are probably going to be more of the norm. Can we work with them on routing? Most definitely. And that's going to be part of what we're looking at now, because I don't believe the Centennial Hall is going to be able to facilitate on our large cruise ship days enough pickups and drop-offs. So we're looking at how we can utilize our facility under the bridge as a pickup drop-off point as well, and amongst some other places that the community has suggested that might work as pickup and drop-off points, because we wouldn't be able to handle that amount of people here at this facility. As nice as it is, as much as we want to use it as the focal point, the entry point into Sitka, I just don't think it's possible when we have 8,000 people that need to be bussed into town, bussed in and out in a very short time. So, yes, please.
Alicia has a question.
Oh, yes, I was supposed to look down here every once in a while, and I did not. So, yes, please.
Hi. Okay, following up on the infrastructure question and understanding of resources and allocation and understanding the positive impact for the terms of our community, what about the internet impact? Because you can only see that nice bump when the churches are here for internet access. Is that going to be addressed, or is that viewed as more of a private?
So I know it's on people's minds. I don't know that it's going to be addressed in the near term for this next year, but it is definitely a hot topic of conversation. I participated in a downtown business owners forum with the Planning Commission, and I think just about everybody said, not only does our cell phone service go down, but our internet suffers, and the merchants were concerned because then we couldn't run credit card transactions, which doesn't help with the visitor experience either. So, it's on our minds. We had talked with Senator Sullivan on ways where we can perhaps tap some of this infrastructure and broadband money to tap into the fiber optic cable that runs outside of Edgecombe as opposed to the one that we're currently linked into, which goes down Chatham. That would increase some of our capacity there, but I don't know how it works with all the providers in doing that. So logistically, it's going to be hard, but it is, I believe, a necessity. Hopefully, also, if GCI sees the need for bigger, larger service to town, that they can start working on that as well, since they would be the ones to profit off of being able to offer more and better service. Verizon, I know right now, is in the process of leasing some land from us to put up another cell phone tower. We hope that this one will be, kind of decorated and hidden like you see some. I made a joke at the assembly table about that I've seen some really great ones that look like cactuses. You hardly even notice them in the background. It just looks like a big cactus. I don't think that's probably the right design for Sitka, but they do look really, really good. You can hardly see them. So yeah, that's on people's minds. I do know. I don't know that there's an easy or short-term solution to that, unfortunately.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. And that really was the couple key points that I had wanted to talk about, but happy to continue this conversation and this dialogue. I was, like I said, really happy to see that there was a solid budget, what I would say for going forward. I'm really happy to see that our administrator is making some key position changes to help efficiencies within City Hall. Efficiencies are eventually going to lead to savings. It takes a little bit to get those going, but once they do get going, I believe that the city's going to be able to capture revenue due. They're going to have efficiencies in operations, which is going to speed up the processes for our citizens and then hopefully save money in the long run. So it was a great budget that is available for anybody to look at if they have questions. But yeah, that starts July 1st. We jump into that budget. So. Yes, please.
I'm not a Fisher person, and I'm a visitor person, so I'm concerned what's going to happen downtown, but it would seem to me that probably the biggest important thing to do is get the haul out going, if we're going to support the fishing industry here.
I would agree. I think that it
How
is.
come you guys aren't putting $1 million towards that?
That has not, it's come up in conversation, but that doesn't seem to be the overall will of the assembly right now. Not saying that it can't be changed. If enough people came forward and said, hey, let's invest in this. I think part of it is the hope for the haul out grants this year. I think if we don't get it on our second time of being high up in there, that I don't want to say that we just completely shut down that process, but I think it's time to looking at alternatives for funding. And I don't know what that is. I hate to burden us with more debt, but we'll have to start looking at alternatives, I think, at that point. So, yeah, if that's something that you're interested in, and not even being a Fisher person, that's pretty strong to hear right there.
It just seems like the whole community relies on the, year-round on the fishing business.
Agreed.
And people, if there's no haul out, then people are gonna ghost out of here.
Yeah, and they do. They do. We've lost some extremely talented aluminum workers over the years because they didn't have facilities to work out of here. So, question?
I would just strongly encourage maybe the assembly to consider, I believe there was a proposal on the table for doing a haul out in trade for some property, and the haul out would be done for some city property. And I don't know, of course, I know it's like a very vapor, anecdotal amount of information about that, but I don't know if that's like being considered or if you know anything about that. But there's a local, I believe, construction company that I believe wanted to do a trade and just for some city property and then build a haul out.
Correct. Yeah, that process did happen a couple years ago when it was found out that Halibut Point Marine Services would no longer haul boats. Halibut Point Marine Services was interested in trading some city land, which they are now interested in leasing from the city, trading some city land for construction of a haul out. Now, I don't remember exactly why that process was stopped, but I don't believe the assembly found the necessary value in the trade. And I don't remember, again, if there were legal issues on that with the swapping, and I think that there might have been, just in Sitka General Code, on how we can actually dispose of lands, that I don't think a trade was allowed. Now, could we find a way to do it? Perhaps. But yeah, last I knew that process stopped a couple years ago and has not been redone. And if we sell lands, all that money has to go into the permanent fund.
Okay.
And then it would take, I think we leave a vote of the people to bring money out of our permanent fund. So.
And then I just had a thought.
Yeah.
Another just side question, because I believe I apologize, but has the assembly considered at all, like, doing a little bit of a increase in property tax and maybe getting rid of the sales tax on groceries? Has that ever been discussed again?
Not again, no. The Citizens Task Force did look at that several years ago when Mark Gorman was the administrator. I believe it to be a good thing. I believe that sales tax on groceries are a fairly regressive tax. But the logistics of informing the town on why we were doing what we're doing proved to be too big of a burden to overcome. People heard increase in property tax and instantly kind of stopped that discussion. So is it a worthwhile discussion to continue? Yes. The huge hurdle, at least for myself, is informing the voters why we're doing this and what we're doing it for. And that's hard because those who don't want to listen aren't going to listen, and those who want to listen, they can inform themselves. So I'm not saying that that's an impossible one, but it'd be hard. And any increase in property tax is going to have to go in front of the voters. And part of the reason it was also put on the back burner was because the assembly would then have to take action and take sales tax off of the groceries through ordinance after the ballot proposition passed. And you couldn't necessarily tie the ballot proposition to an assembly action. You could say, we're going to increase our property tax from 6 miles. Okay, and then it would have to be a separate assembly action to remove sales tax off of groceries, which could then be undone by a future assembly. So there was a lot of faith, there was a lot of hope, and a lot of compromise in it. And I think those were the things that were just a little too difficult to overcome at the time.
Thank you.
So I've been a participant in the planning commission meetings and things like that. I'm just wondering, when is a plan going to be available for review and feedback?
So we're looking at around December timeframe is when the planning commission thinks that they're going to be pretty close to ending their work. They're going to submit that to the assembly. It's not, I don't know that they're going to, they may have some recommendations. I don't know that they're going to ask for anything, and then the assembly can take steps past that in order to implement some of those thoughts and ideas. So look for that around December, and then assembly action, probably to follow in the January, February, March timeframe.
Then my follow-up question, once we're through 400,000 people, is the planning commission going to take that and modify it from the learnings and engage the community for feedback? So it's not just, we've done our plan, great, move on, but continue to take learnings and modify a plan going forward.
So that's my intent, and I believe that's the administrator's intent as well, is that this plan just helps us get through this one next year. We obviously have to take some sort of action. I don't believe that we're set up as is to handle that many visitors, but the next step would be a 5-year visitor plan and then a 10-year visitor plan as well, kind of based on what the cruise ships see coming to Alaska and so forth. We have a great working relationship with multiple cruise lines that want to help us. They go into small towns like ours all the time and inundate them with people, and they have some best practices that could help us. So, I don't know who's going to be doing the plan. We may look to outside help for that, but yes, it is our intent after we get through this year to apply learned knowledge and then come up with a 5 and 10 year plan. So, yeah.
Stephen, I appreciated hearing Felicia's question about the internet, because that's been a chamber issue for quite a few years, but it's also not that much of the community's control, because some company that makes money has to figure out a way to do it. Mm-hmm. The other topic that the chamber's been talking about for years and years is property, additional property available for development in town. And the Assembly's had some real successes. The property for the Sitka Land Trust, Community Land Trust, is turning out to be a good thing. And like ADUs, accessory dwelling units, help us for having more housing, basically. But the city's also had failures. I mean, the property up on the hill, what do we call it?
The benchlands.
Benchlands, yeah. It has some issues. But
correct.
Nonetheless, I think that I would say we need to keep looking at more property. It does two things. One, it gives us a chance to increase or better our housing. The other thing it does is it adds to that property tax income that you're not talking about. So don't let the past failures discourage us. And I think at any point that the city can divest itself of a piece of property and get it on the tax rolls, that's a good thing. And even if you take a meeting on it, you still you turn it from a non-performing asset into a performing asset, and you open it up for housing and economic development. So keep diving in.
I would agree. There's a couple processes in the works right now to hopefully help Sitka with some land issues. We have a request in through the governor's office for some of the state land that it's up the Indian River Valley, which I do see as pretty much the future of Sitka. It's flat, buildable. Yeah, there's some muskeg issues back there, but so is DeGroff and everything in that area. I know I grew up on DeGroff Street, so there's a request in, and that was solicited by the governor. Hey, is there any state lands that can help municipalities continue to grow? And we have a request in for a couple chunks of land there. And then we also are working with FERC on getting some of the lands out towards Green Lake opened up. Now, I'm not exactly sure how that would work logistically, but we would have some land along the side of the road there going all the way out to Green Lake that could potentially be opened up for housing and other developments. So it's a very good point, though. We can't ever forget about any of that. Like, lands are the key to our success.
So my question, the DNR mapping of our hillsides.
Mm-hmm.
Has Assembly, when they're going to have that indication map out, and is Assembly going to accept it, reject it, or just ignore it?
I hate standing here in front of you and saying I don't know, but I don't know, and that is the best answer that I can give on that. I know that there's a lot of hesitation. I know that it's caused issues for a lot of people. It was hard at the time to reject a process that went down this road because the Assembly was definitely concerned about life safety of its citizens, and rightfully so. At the time, I did express some concerns that, exactly a lot of the issues you're seeing would come up. And we're now facing the ramifications of some of that issues. So it's a harder one, and I don't have anything current for you.
Do you know if DNR is going to publish that regardless of what the city is going to do, or do you have any?
I don't know.
You don't
know. Please.
So I've heard you field a lot of good but tough questions. So I have maybe a more sophomore, but hopefully easier question, and I hope you'll bear with me.
Yes, of course.
But I was just thinking of last week when this group was brainstorming around, the next year's plans, and there were so many great ideas. And as a newcomer, I just love to hear your perspective on how you think the Rotary Club can be helpful to you, to the city. What you think is really done well historically, and what, if you have any advice for, anyone who wants to help the community as part of the Rotary for the next year or 5 years.
Yeah. Great question, and I have some answers for that, and then I don't. But the Rotary has definitely done a wonderful job of getting my grandmother up here every summer. So thank you for that. She's encouraged to come up here and sell duck tickets at the parade, and then I get to see her around every 4th of July. So thank you all for that. I appreciate having my mom bring her up here for that. The best part to me about Rotary is that they don't necessarily work hand in hand with city government. I think it's important for grassroots efforts such as this, although Rotary is such a national organization, I hate to call it grassroots, but you guys can work hand in hand with entities that need help. You can do projects that just need to be done without having to jump through a lot of the processes of the city. As a great example, I had a group that wanted to pick up trash around town every Saturday. And it took about 2.5 months for me to get it approved and get the forms and all the processes in place so that they could go dump this at the transfer station free of charge. Something sounds so simple. There were so many different hoops we had to jump through. The mayor does have a small contingency fund every year, and that's where the funding for that came from. But it was just, I couldn't believe how difficult it was for a group that wanted to beautify Sitka to dump their garbage free of charge. Which, for Rotary, there is a form online. If you'd like to go around and pick up garbage, you can dump it at the transfer station free of charge. That would be a good one. But yeah, I really do. I heard earlier that you're going to have lots of funding this year to donate to nonprofits. The city historically has not done the best in helping nonprofits. We have a little bit of funding available every year, but it's not a whole lot. So it's actions like that, because you can't underestimate or understate the impact of nonprofits within our community. They fill a lot of needs for services that the city's unable to provide. So simply helping to support them. I think Rotary's mission in whole simply helps Sitka. By having a chapter of Rotary here, we are able to continue to make Sitka a great place to live. Sitka's pretty much like LA, so I think you'll become adapted here really, really fast and really, really well. But it is groups like Rotary that make Sitka a great place to live. It's why when I graduated high school, I couldn't wait to get out of this town. I was never coming back. It was in the rearview mirror. 4 years later, I couldn't get back here fast enough. And now I've stayed. I plan to grow old here and retire. Well, hopefully retire. I don't know how many of my generation will ever get to retire. But yeah, grow old, retire here. I'm a Sitkan for life now. So yeah, anything that Rotary can do to just help continue to make Sitka a great place to live, I much appreciate.
I'll throw you a hard one then.
Okay.
So, the Juneau people had a ballot proposition they wanted to do to limit the number of cruise ships that could come to town.
Yes.
What hours they could be
Yes.
there. If we have a disaster, and I make my money through the visitor industry, 400,000 people is a lot. And if it doesn't work out, is there any kind of discussion or possible discussion to say, hey, we can only handle 280,000 or whatever?
So there definitely can be a discussion. Juneau has an advantage that they own their dock. Sitka does not own their dock. So how do we tell a private business, no, you can't tie up boats? Now, I believe there may be a legal way to do that by saying, we're not going to have, I don't know. I haven't looked into that very much. I know that the cruise line agencies are extremely worried about it. In fact, they sent representatives here, and I met with them, and that was one of their big points of conversation was, I hope Sitka's not doing kind of the same thing that Juneau is. They're worried about it. They're concerned, but I wish they had a little bit more concern on what the livability of having 400,000 people in town every summer is, because that's a huge concern to me. And I make money off of visitors as well, and I personally think it's too much. Business owner hat on, I think 400,000 is too much, but we'll see where that goes.
Was it a bad experience for the visitors too?
It is.
It was just a no-win thing.
It is.
Too many people.
And I brought that up with them because Sitka constantly scores high on the guest experience, like 97 out of 100 points. And I wanted to make sure that many visitors wasn't going to drop our score down and make it a less desirable place to visit. So.
Well, I was in Ketchikan, where there's 1 million people a year on the docks working on the tour business, and the greed factor was palatable. You can't hide it. There's that many people.
Yeah, I constantly hear comments of cruise ship visitors saying, wow, thank you for being an authentic town. Thank you for being a real town. You're not, you don't have all the diamond stores and everything that, that Ketchikan and Juneau have. And so that resonates with people, most definitely. They enjoy coming to Sitka for that. I enjoy living in Sitka for that. I could go live in Ketchikan or Juneau just as easy, but yes, please.
Jumping back to the internet, you were talking about, you mentioned GCI, you mentioned Verizon.
Mm-hmm.
I actually have AT&T. Did you know something about AT&T that I didn't? I mean, are they pulling out? Because you didn't see anything about AT&T expanding their services. You said that GCI certainly was an opportunity for GCI to expand their services in town, and you mentioned Verizon. I didn't even know Verizon had service here, but I get my service from AT&T, so was there a reason you, didn't mention AT&T?
No, I just didn't mention them because as far as I know, they're not looking at expanding service in the town right now. And GCI owns and operates the fiber optic cable that we get our internet off of, while AT&T, I believe, I don't know that they have internet services in town. It's simply cell phone service. GCI did recently lease cell phone towers from the city, so they put a lot of money, which was a great return on investment. It cost about $300,000 for us to build these 5 towers, and they pay us $100,000 a year in lease revenue.
Wow.
So in a 3-year term, we paid back, and then we continue to get $100,000 a year into our electric fund every year. So that was an awesome opportunity there. But yeah, GCI recently invested in additional capability for their cell phone services. I didn't mention AT&T because I don't know of any plans or anything that they're doing right now. I definitely don't believe they're looking to pull out of town. But I don't know that they're looking to expand. Verizon is wanting to come into town and expand services, starting with 1 tower, and I believe piggybacking off of a couple others. So.
Okay. Yeah, because it's all the cell phone service when the cruise ships are in town. AT&T, it's like I get somebody dropped everything as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed. And yes, I think the point was very well heard earlier that it's a private business, and if the private business sees the need for additional service, I think we can say, hey guys, we need some better and more, but how do we convince a private company to invest more in their infrastructure? It's harder. So. Yes, please.
probably a weird question, but I'm curious if anyone ever talks about exercising eminent domain to address like the dock issue and the haul-out issue.
Not that I know of. Eminent domain is a word that kind of scares me. I don't necessarily like that, but that has not come up in any conversation. Would that be to like I'm not sure what you would use it for in those circumstances.
To acquire the property.
Well, so where we're looking at putting the haul out is out at GPIP, in which the city owns the property.
Okay.
So we wouldn't need to do any of that.
But if you wanted to control the cruise ship amount of people.
Yeah, that scares me.
They don't have a buddy.
It'd be, yeah.
I know.
So I don't know how long your
I
meeting's
know, I shouldn't have spoken.
supposed to go. It is 1 o'clock right now. I don't want to go over my allotted time, but I'm happy to continue conversation if people need. I guess we have to ask the outgoing president. I know. Well, conversation's better than mine. So. Who was the incoming president then?
Cindy Gibson. Early. So throw her under the bus while you're doing me too.
We're both going to roll down that dirt hill together.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you very much.
Outgoing, so I was happy to be at your last meeting.
Yeah.
Not last meeting, but last
No,
as
it's all good. Yeah, I asked the eminent domain question, so I'm out of here.
Yeah.
Woo! It got real hot.
Let's make sure
wrap it up.
for the Sentinel article.
No, let's forget that.
There is no talk of
eminent domain being exercised in this town.
Correct.
We just profit now.
So,
Ready?
thank you all. I know you said you had hard questions. I didn't find them to be hard at all. The hardest one that I had was ones that I can't give a solid answer to. So apologize for that. But no, it was a great conversation. It was great questions, and I hope that everyone here is leaving today a little bit more informed or curious even, and they want to try and help out our town as well. So thank you for your time today. Look forward to coming back with more great news about Sitka. So, and I if you both yeah, I was gonna say, if you both want to cut.
Yeah, let's do that.
Gotta wait.
Okay, are you ready? Are you guys live? Well, we're so excited to have another chamber business have a ribbon cutting. We've got an upgraded space and such a cool location, bringing a beautiful store into right in the heart of our downtown. Mayor, thank you for being here. Would you like to say a few words?
Rachel said what I was going to say. Upgraded space.
Say it again.
Yeah, no, it's wonderful to see a storefront that was empty filled now. It's wonderful to see investment in our community by younger people. I definitely appreciate that because if the younger generation doesn't start investing in something, we're going to be left. It's wonderful to see. I'm glad to see all of the businesses that are here as well. Galanin, Element Agency, and Galanin and Klien all in one building now. So that's absolutely wonderful to see. I'm sure it's not much easier on that front. So congratulations. Yeah, that worked really well.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you to the chamber. What a fun event and fun place. Thank you.
Yeah, so here, go and show us the store.
Okay,
Come on in.
Klien, our new location at 401 Lincoln. Here is our, how would we describe this? Like, kind of self-care. The store is like a general store. We specialize in local art, local items and gifts, and try to feature as many designers and makers from across Sitka, Alaska, and the Pacific Northwest. Everybody that's featured in here is a small business in some way, women-owned or Black or Indigenous-owned business. We have lots of local gifts and treats for tourists to take home, and also everything that we have in here is something a local might want to enjoy as well. So we have jewelry over here, lots of self-care items in the back, lots of home goods, things like that people might want to make their home more functional or more beautiful. Some specialty foods too. And of course we have our extensive candle collection, which is really popular, especially with the locals. And then over on this half of the store, we have a lot of our apparel. So we carry rain jackets, things that we know can stand up to Southeast Alaska rainstorms. We're starting to carry a lot of children's items. So right now we are carrying good rain boots for the summertime weather. We've got different things that you might be able to take waterproof things out on the boat with. Picnic blankets, all waterproof, all Sitka-proof, you should say. Lots of art by Galanin. These are some prints that he recently created and made. And then he also recently came out with a couple of apparel designs, so we're really excited to feature those as well. Along with another Alaska brand called 49th Supply Co. So we have some more apparel selections now, and we're really excited to pick up more Alaska brands and companies for our visitors and for locals to both enjoy.
And then one thing that's a little different about Galanin and Klien is that we also offer interior styling. So Rachel is a very well-known interior stylist, and she also is able to source and bring really nice furniture up from a variety of different retailers in the lower 48. Because that can sometimes be difficult to figure out on your own. If there's something like a couch that you fall in love with and you want, and you aren't quite sure how to get it up here, Rachel can do that for you.
And then also if there's a lot of our clients are people who want to update a space in their house or just make one of the rooms that they like just more enjoyable, and so that's really fun for us to kind of get into in the project and help design and transform a space that our clients love. So welcome to Galanin and Klien, and thank you, and I hope you come down and shop with us soon and say hi to us. Thank you. Bye. So, start with the origin story of Galanin and Klien. Britt and I were friends, and we kind of started talking about some dreams that we had of opening up a retail space in Sitka. Britt was the one who brought it up to me, and I was all for it. And so we were like, okay, well, we'll just see when a spot becomes available, kind of play it by ear, and we can start doing some work on it. This was in, I think, November of 2018. And then our first location just randomly all of a sudden became available, and Britt's like, I got a lease, let's do this. And so it was like 4 months, a little bit of like mad scrambling, but it was a lot of fun. We put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears. Well, not really any tears or blood. Just a lot of sweat into our opening up Galanin and Klien, our first location, which was just downtown, just a couple blocks away. And we were open April 4th, I think, was our 2019. And then we had our first summer in Sitka, which was also the only summer that we've experienced cruise ships because of COVID.
Learned a lot about running a retail business in a tourism-focused town.
Yeah, very quickly. Learned a lot, yep. And we
opened Galanin and Klien with the intention of offering something different for locals. That was like the main focus when we first started. And we wanted to pick up new brands and new products, and we decided to focus a lot on supporting other small businesses and carrying a lot of small batch, handmade, handcrafted, very quality items, and support other people who are trying to make a living, or getting their products out there across Alaska and the United States, and even globally. We have a few vendors that come from different parts of the world. So that's been a lot of fun for us to curate, I think, and find those brands and the unique products that Britt and I both love to use. Or give as gifts for our loved ones. So
Yeah, a lot of the items that we opened Galanin and Klien with were things that Rachel and I had used and loved over the years, and brands we were excited to share with Sitkans. I was especially wanting to bring things to Sitka that I knew worked well for small island living, like our Rains company is something that was important to me to bring here because I myself had been buying the jackets and knew how well they worked. And then that sort of grew from there and evolved, and we started focusing a lot on Alaskan brands and Alaskan makers that tourists might want to shop and take home as like an authentic, real souvenir from our community or our state, and then also that locals might want to enjoy as well. And so that has been the goal here, to have different items and gifts and things that everyone might appreciate. And so hopefully there's something for everyone here at Galanin and Klien.
Mm-hmm. Yep, whether you are local to Sitka or you're visiting from elsewhere.
And then something else that's kind of fun about Rachel and I is that we also both had babies. We call them Galanin and Klien 2.0 at the same time during 5 weeks apart during 2020. So after opening a store in 2019, we decided we would have babies in 2020 and then open a new location in 2021. So we're not quite sure what we're going to do next year. But
I'm sure something will happen. And then, the decision to move also was, like our decision to open, was a little bit short notice, or it happened really quickly. But this gorgeous space became available, and it really allowed us to display our products in a way, because our inventory grew over the year and a half that we had been open, and so we purposefully like to display all of our products in a way that is spacious, so it's not too crowded or overwhelming for people when they come into the shop. We very purposefully want to create a calming atmosphere and make this a place that people want to be and enjoy looking at our items. And so this space lends itself perfectly to that. There's so much, the floor plan's great, there's a lot of room. And then also with Britt's other business Element, which is a creative agency, there's space for her office to be here, and then as well as Jared Galanin, who's a local Klien artist, and his studio is here as well. So it's a great use of this space, I think.
Multi-family, multi-use, keep everything under one roof.
Yeah.
So that has been a lot of fun. And then it's also been nice as we've grown into this space. We left sort of the heart of downtown Lincoln, but it's been fun to expand this way and work with new neighbors. And then it was also exciting because we saw another small business in Sitka move into our old location and be able to grow their own business there too, and that's at the Lighthouse store. And so it's just fun to see other young entrepreneurs building things out, more businesses in downtown Sitka, and all of us working collectively to, just build the energy.
Yeah, and we're getting ready for our first Friday, which is July 2nd, I believe, from 5 to 8. And so that's really exciting, too, to get that back up and going, and having the local businesses join together to work together and get that up
Provide
and running.
more opportunities for Sitkans to come downtown and hang out and do things. And so we're excited to participate in that and see that become a regular part of Sitka programming.
Yes, definitely.
Oh, that's really cute. I love that.
Yeah, you can do that on Super Stories from, or do Stories from here. Yeah. How are you? I did it again too with my sisters.
I was like, whoop, and then I was like, oh, I did that first. It would have been great if I'd done that again too. Yeah. Super solid. That's all I gotta say. Looks good. Carol, put on your way. Sorry. I was like, yeah, today's like, we're out of time before. Oh, you too. I was like, oh, just give it a chance and you yeah, and I know, I felt somebody like, oh, we don't have any change, like, we don't really have any change. I mean, yeah, yeah, the ring. Oh, it's, yeah, I just really excited. Yeah, just text it to me and I'll post it. Okay. Sounds good. I took a bunch, so. See you, McKenna.